It was a calm Sunday morning in the small town of Willow Creek, a quiet place where nothing exciting ever happened. The streets were empty except for a few kids riding bikes and an old man walking his dog. Ethan Miller, a 22-year-old college student, walked slowly along the sidewalk, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a worn-out book in the other. He loved visiting old thrift stores, searching for second-hand books that told forgotten stories. That morning, Ethan had found a thick novel titled Dreams of Tomorrow. The cover was torn, the pages yellowed, but something about it caught his eye. He paid $2 for it and took it home, happy with his small treasure. Later that afternoon, as sunlight slipped through his window, Ethan sat on his bed and opened the book. He smiled as he turned the pages until something fell out. It was a folded piece of paper, old and brown with age. The edges were slightly burned, and the handwriting was elegant but shaky. He opened it carefully. The words were short but strange. "If you ever find this, look near the old bridge at midnight. The truth still waits." Below the message, there was a date, August 14, 2005. Exactly 20 years ago. Ethan frowned. "What truth?" he whispered. "And who wrote this?" At first, he thought maybe it was part of a game or a joke. But something about the way the ink had faded and the burned edges of the paper made it feel real, like a message someone had tried to hide. He looked again at the handwriting. The letter L in the word looked curled beautifully, almost like the writer cared deeply about what they wrote. Whoever they were, they wanted someone to find this note, and maybe, they wanted to be found too. Ethan turned the paper over. On the back, there was a small heart symbol, drawn with the same ink. Inside it were the letters LA. He didn't know anyone with those initials. That evening, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the letter. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he should go to the bridge mentioned in the note. The old bridge, everyone in town knew it. It was just outside Willow Creek, a place where teenagers hung out during summer, though most people said it was haunted. He laughed softly to himself. "Haunted, huh? Maybe this letter is from a ghost," he said. But deep inside, he felt something pulling him, a strange curiosity that he couldn't ignore. When the clock struck 11:30 p.m., Ethan grabbed his jacket and flashlight and quietly stepped out of his small apartment. The air was cold, the streets empty. Only the sound of crickets filled the silence as he walked toward the bridge. The road curved through a thick patch of trees before opening into a narrow lane that led to the Willow Creek Bridge. The wooden boards creaked under his steps as he reached the middle. The moonlight reflected off the dark water below. He looked around, no one was there. Only the gentle flow of the river and the whisper of the wind. He took out the letter and read it again under the flashlight. "Look near the old bridge at midnight." He checked his phone. It was 11:59 p.m. Then, he heard it. Footsteps. Slow, light, and steady. Ethan froze and turned off his flashlight. His heart began to pound. The sound came closer, echoing across the wooden bridge. He squinted and saw a faint figure through the fog, a young woman, standing at the far end of the bridge. She wore a white dress that moved gently in the wind. Her long hair covered her face, but something about her posture felt sad, like she had been waiting for someone for a long time. Ethan swallowed hard. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out, his voice trembling slightly. No answer. The woman didn't move. He took a step closer. "Did you drop this letter?" The woman slowly raised her head, but the fog thickened, hiding her face. For a brief second, Ethan thought he saw her lips curve into a soft smile. Then, she vanished. Ethan blinked. She was gone like smoke disappearing into the night air. He rushed forward, shining his flashlight across the bridge, looking left and right. No one. Only silence. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. "What the hell?" he whispered. He checked both ends of the bridge, empty. No footprints, no sound, nothing but mist. His hand trembled as he picked up the letter again. The words "the truth still waits" now felt heavier, more real. Ethan stayed there for a few more minutes, hoping she'd come back. But the only sound was the rustle of the trees and the flowing water below. Finally, he turned to leave, but as he took one last glance at the bridge railing, something caught his eye: a mark carved into the wood. It was a small heart, the same as the one on the back of the letter, with the letters LA inside. Ethan's breath hitched. It was old but still clear. He ran his fingers over it gently. Someone had been here before, maybe the same person who wrote the letter. As he walked home through the cold night, his mind spun with questions. Who was LA? Why was the letter hidden in that book? And who was that woman on the bridge? When Ethan finally reached his apartment, it was past 1 a.m. He placed the letter on his desk, staring at it under the soft glow of his lamp. He didn't believe in ghosts. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the letter wasn't just a message, it was a cry for help. And somehow, it had reached the only person willing to listen. That night, as he closed his eyes, one thought kept repeating in his head. If the truth still waits, then maybe it's waiting for me. The next morning, Ethan woke up with the strange memory of the woman on the bridge still fresh in his mind. For a moment, he thought it might have been a dream, but when he looked at his desk, the old letter was still there, lying exactly where he left it. He sat down and read it again, tracing each word with his finger. If you ever find this, look near the old bridge at midnight. The truth still waits. That message now meant something deeper. He had seen someone there. Someone who vanished. He couldn't stop thinking about her face, or rather, the faint glimpse of it before the fog swallowed her. Who was she? Why was she there? And what truth was she talking about? He grabbed his phone and called his best friend, Jake Parker. Jake was the kind of guy who never believed in anything mysterious. He joked about ghosts and loved horror movies, but he never took anything seriously. When Ethan told him about the letter, the initials L.A., and the strange woman on the bridge, Jake laughed. "Dude, you've been watching too many mystery shows," Jake said through the phone. "Maybe someone's just messing with you." "I don't think so," Ethan replied quietly. It felt real. She was there. Jake chuckled. "All right, Sherlock. If it's so real, why not ask the bookstore guy where you got the book? Maybe he knows where it came from." Ethan froze for a second. Jake had a point. That afternoon, Ethan walked back to the small thrift bookstore near the corner of Maple Street. The shop was dim and smelled of old paper. Behind the counter sat Mr. Cole, an elderly man with glasses too big for his face. "Good morning, Mr. Cole," Ethan said politely. "Ah, Ethan. Back so soon," the old man smiled. "Didn't like the book." "I liked it," Ethan said, holding up the letter. "But I found this inside. Do you recognize it?" Mr. Cole leaned forward, squinting at the paper. His smile faded slowly as he read the words. When his eyes reached the initials L.A., his hands shook a little. "Where did you say you found this?" "In the book I bought from your shop yesterday." Mr. Cole took off his glasses and sighed deeply. "That handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. It's from Lily Adams." "Who's Lily Adams?" Ethan asked, feeling his heart beat faster. Mr. Cole looked out the window for a long moment, then back at Ethan. "Lily used to live here about 20 years ago. She was beautiful, smart, full of life. Everyone loved her. But one night, she just disappeared. No one ever found her." Ethan blinked in shock. "Disappeared? Like gone?" "Yes," Mr. Cole said. "And her boyfriend, Mark Turner, died that same week. People said he slipped near the bridge and drowned. But others believed it wasn't an accident." Ethan's eyes widened. "The same bridge?" Mr. Cole nodded slowly. The very same. The air inside the store felt heavy now. Ethan looked down at the letter again. It wasn't just random. It was connected to Lily Adams, a woman who vanished 2 decades ago. Mr. Cole turned to an old wooden drawer behind the counter and opened it carefully. "I still keep this," he murmured, pulling out a small black and white photo. He handed it to Ethan. In the picture, a young woman smiled beside the bridge railing, the sun shining behind her. Her eyes were kind, her smile gentle. And right behind her, carved faintly into the wood, was the same heart symbol with the letters LA inside. Ethan's hands trembled as he stared at the photo. It was the same mark he had seen on the bridge last night. "She's beautiful," Ethan whispered. "She was," Mr. Cole said softly. "And no one ever knew what really happened to her." Ethan thanked Mr. Cole and left the shop, his mind racing. As he walked toward the bridge again that evening, he couldn't help but feel like Lily's eyes in the photo were following him, asking him to find out the truth. The sun was setting when Ethan reached the bridge once more. The orange light painted the water in gold, and the same cold wind brushed against his face. He pulled out the old photo and held it next to the railing. The heart mark was there, but something was different. He ran his fingers over the carving. It was rough on one side, like someone had carved over it recently. The wood was newer, fresher than it should have been if it was truly 20 years old. He leaned closer and whispered, "Someone's been here." A soft creak echoed behind him. Ethan turned sharply. No one. Only the trees and the empty road. But his heart wouldn't calm down. He took a deep breath and looked under the bridge. The shadows danced with the light of his phone. He saw nothing unusual, until his light caught something shiny near one of the wooden posts. He climbed down carefully and picked it up. It was a small silver locket, half buried in dirt. Inside was a faded picture of a man and woman, Lily and Mark. On the back, engraved in tiny letters, it said, "Forever, M&L." Ethan's throat tightened. This wasn't just a mystery anymore, it was personal. He slipped the locket into his pocket and whispered, "Lily, what happened to you?" The sound of water rushing under the bridge seemed to answer him, soft, almost like a voice carried in the wind. When Ethan finally walked home, the street lights flickered behind him, and the town felt different, older, sadder. He didn't notice, but as he left, the fog slowly returned, covering the bridge again. And for just a moment, if someone had been watching closely, they would have seen a faint shadow of a young woman standing on the bridge, smiling sadly before fading back into the mist. The next few days passed slowly, but Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Lily Adams. Her smiling face from the old photo stayed in his mind, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw the foggy bridge and that shadowy woman standing there. He placed the silver locket on his desk, right next to the old letter. They seemed to belong together, like two missing pieces of a broken story. Ethan knew he couldn't stop now. He had to find out what really happened to Lily. The next morning, he went to the Willow Creek Library. The librarian, Mrs. Woods, was a kind woman in her 60s who had lived in the town her whole life. "Do you have old newspaper records?" Ethan asked politely. She smiled. "Of course, dear. Follow me." She led him to a quiet room filled with dusty boxes and thick binders. Ethan sat down, flipping through old newspapers from the year 2005. It didn't take long before one headline made his heart skip. "Young man found dead near Willow Creek Bridge, Mark Turner, age 24. He read the article quickly. It said Mark had drowned after losing balance while walking along the edge of the bridge. But there was one sentence that stood out. "Local witnesses report hearing an argument shortly before the accident." Ethan leaned closer, whispering, "An argument?" He turned the page and found another article written just 1 week later. "Lily Adams missing, police seek clues in connection with Mark Turner's death." The article mentioned that Lily was last seen leaving her apartment late at night. Her neighbors said she looked upset. No one saw her again. Ethan felt a chill. So she disappeared right after Mark died, he murmured. Just then, Mrs. Woods peeked in. Are you researching the Adams case? She asked softly. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. Did you know her? I remember when it happened, she said sadly. Detective Harper worked that case for years. Poor man never got over it. He's retired now, lives near the lake. Ethan stood up instantly. Do you know where exactly? She smiled faintly. You can find him near Cedar Lake Road. Small house with blue shutters. You can't miss it. Later that day, Ethan drove out of town to the lake. The road was quiet, lined with pine trees and fallen leaves. He soon spotted a small cabin with blue shutters, just like Mrs. Woods had said. He knocked on the door. A tall, gray-haired man opened it, his eyes sharp but kind. Detective Harper? Ethan asked. Used to be, the man replied, studying him carefully. Who's asking? My name's Ethan Miller. I think I found something connected to Lily Adams. Harper's face changed instantly. Come in. Inside, the cabin smelled of coffee and old wood. The detective motioned for Ethan to sit. What did you find? Ethan placed the letter and locket on the table. Harper leaned closer, his expression serious. I remember this handwriting, Harper said quietly. Lily wrote dozens of notes like this during the investigation. She was scared, said someone was watching her. Watching her? Who? Ethan asked. Harper sighed deeply. We never knew. But Lily mentioned a man named Mr. Grayson. He was a businessman back then, rich, powerful, and involved in everything. Mark Turner worked for him as a truck driver. Ethan frowned. You think Grayson had something to do with Mark's death? Maybe, Harper said. Mark found out about some illegal business deals Grayson was running. He wanted to report it, but before he could, he drowned. Days later, Lily vanished. Ethan's heart raced. So she tried to expose him. Harper nodded slowly. That's what I believe. But we never found proof, only rumors. He looked at Ethan with tired eyes. Son, you should stay away from this. Grayson still runs the biggest company in town. He's dangerous. But Ethan couldn't stop now. I need to know the truth, sir. I think Lily wanted me to. The detective looked surprised. Why you? Ethan hesitated. I don't know yet. But I feel like, she's trying to reach out. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept reading Lily's letter again and again. The words "the truth still waits" now felt like an invitation. He decided to go to Lily's old apartment the next morning. It had been empty for years, but the building still stood on Maple Avenue, covered in ivy and dust. With the landlord's permission, Ethan entered the small apartment. Everything was old, broken furniture, yellow walls, cracked pictures. He looked around quietly, trying to imagine how she had lived. Then something caught his eye, the corner of a drawer, slightly open. Inside, taped under the bottom, was a small rusted key wrapped in paper. He unwrapped it and read the note. If something happens to me, the answer is where it all began. Ethan froze. Where it began? He thought hard. Lily and Mark's story began at the old cabin near the forest, where they used to meet when they first fell in love. He had seen it marked in one of the newspaper photos. The next day, he followed the trail into the woods, guided by the sound of birds and wind. After a long walk, he saw it, a small wooden cabin, half collapsed, covered in vines. The key fit perfectly into the rusty lock. The door creaked open. Inside, dust floated through beams of light. The air smelled of age and sadness. On a small table lay a torn diary, its pages yellow but still readable. Ethan opened it gently. The first pages were full of happy memories, Lily writing about Mark, their dreams, their laughter. But near the end, the words grew darker. Mark said he found something terrible about Mr. Grayson. He wants to tell the police, but I'm scared. Someone has been following us. If something happens to me, Mark's death wasn't an accident. Someone close to us did it. Ethan's eyes widened. Someone close to them. He turned the last page. The final line was short, almost like a whisper from the past. If anyone finds this, tell the truth. Don't let it die with me. Ethan closed the diary, his hands shaking. Now he knew Lily hadn't just vanished. She had been silenced. As he stepped out of the cabin, the wind picked up, rustling the trees. Somewhere in the distance, he thought he heard a woman's soft voice like a thank you carried by the breeze. Ethan looked back at the cabin, his heart pounding. This isn't over, he whispered. Not yet. The old diary felt heavy in Ethan's hands. It wasn't just paper anymore, it was a voice from the past, crying out for justice. Lily Adams had trusted this small book to tell the truth when she couldn't. As Ethan walked back from the forest cabin, his mind was racing. The cold evening air brushed against his face, but he barely noticed it. Every word in that diary echoed in his head. Someone close to us did it. Who could it be? A friend? A family member? Someone she trusted? When Ethan reached home, he placed the diary next to the letter and the silver locket. 3 clues. 3 pieces of one broken puzzle. He stared at them for a long time, then whispered, Lily. I'll find out what really happened to you. The next morning, Ethan decided to visit Detective Harper again. The old man opened the door before Ethan could even knock. You didn't sleep, did you? Harper asked, noticing the dark circles under Ethan's eyes. Ethan shook his head. You were right. Grayson is involved. I found Lily's diary. Harper looked surprised. You did? Yes, Ethan said, handing it over. It says someone close to her and Mark killed him to keep a secret. And I think it's connected to Grayson. Harper flipped through the pages slowly, his eyes scanning the handwriting. This could be proof, he whispered. If this gets out, Grayson's empire could fall. Ethan nodded, his voice firm. Then we expose him. But before Harper could answer, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a message from his mother, short and strange. Ethan, come home now. We need to talk. He frowned. His mom rarely texted like that. Something about it felt urgent. When Ethan reached his small family home, his mom was sitting in the living room, holding an old photo album. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. Mom, he said softly. What's going on? She looked up at him slowly. Ethan, where have you been these days? Trying to solve something, he said carefully. A mystery about a woman named Lily Adams. At that name, his mother's face went pale. The photo album slipped from her hands and fell open on the floor. Ethan bent down to pick it up and froze. There, in one of the old photos, was Lily Adams standing next to a young woman who looked exactly like his mother. Both were smiling, arms around each other. He looked up, confused. Mom, you knew her? His mother took a deep breath. Yes, Ethan. Lily was my best friend. Ethan's heart started pounding. Why didn't you ever tell me? Tears filled her eyes. Because I wanted to protect you. Protect me from what? She looked down at her shaking hands. From the truth. Ethan stepped closer. Mom, please. Tell me everything. His mother's voice trembled as she spoke. Back then, Lily was dating Mark Turner. He was a kind man, brave and honest. He worked for a man named Mr. Grayson. But Mark found out something about money and crimes Grayson was hiding. He wanted to go to the police. Ethan nodded slowly. I know that part. The diary said so. His mom closed her eyes. Grayson found out what Mark was planning. One night, he sent people after them. Mark didn't make it. Lily tried to escape, and she came to me. She was terrified. She said she couldn't trust anyone else. What happened then? Ethan whispered. I helped her hide for a while, his mom said. But she was determined to expose Grayson. She said if something happened to her, the truth had to come out through someone she trusted. Ethan frowned. Through someone she trusted? His mother nodded, tears running down her face. That's why she left you the letter. Ethan's eyes widened. Me? What do you mean? She hesitated, then whispered, Ethan, you're Mark Turner's son. The room fell silent. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. What? His mom's voice broke. I'm sorry, Ethan. Mark was your real father. I never told you because it was too dangerous. After Lily disappeared, I raised you alone. I wanted to keep you safe. Ethan felt like the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. The truth hit him like a wave. The letter. The locket. The diary. The woman on the bridge. Everything was connected to him. He sank onto the couch, staring blankly at the floor. So, all this time, I've been trying to solve my own father's murder, he said softly. His mom nodded. Yes. And Lily, she wasn't just some stranger. She was your aunt. She loved you like her own child. Ethan rubbed his face, trying to breathe. And Mr. Grayson, he's the one who ruined everything. His mom reached out and grabbed his hand. Please, Ethan. Don't go after him. He's powerful. Dangerous. But Ethan's eyes burned with determination. He took my father. He took Lily. I'm not running away. That night, Ethan sat in his car near Grayson's mansion, watching the lights glow behind the tall gates. He could see security guards moving around the property. He took out the diary and whispered, You tried to tell the truth, Lily. Now I will. He pulled out his phone and recorded a video. This is Ethan Miller, he said. 20 years ago, Mark Turner was murdered, and Lily Adams disappeared. I have proof of what happened. If anything happens to me, this story goes public. He sent the video to Detective Harper with a short message, If I don't make it back, use this. Then he stepped out of the car and walked toward the mansion gates. He didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. The truth was finally within reach. The night air around Grayson's mansion was cold and heavy. The tall iron gates stood like dark guards, and the sound of crickets echoed softly through the silence. Ethan stood at a distance, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from anger. For 20 years, the truth had been buried. Now, he was going to bring it back to light. He looked up at the mansion. The lights on the second floor were still on. Through the window, he could see Mr. Richard Grayson, an older man in his 60s, tall and sharp, talking on the phone. Ethan took a deep breath and walked closer. His heart pounded, but his steps were firm. He knew what he had to do. At the main gate, one of the guards stopped him. Hey! Who are you? I need to speak to Mr. Grayson, Ethan said firmly. It's about Lily Adams and Mark Turner. The guard frowned. Never heard of them. Leave now. Ethan pulled out the silver locket and showed it to him. Tell him I found this at Willow Creek Bridge. He'll know what it means. The guard hesitated, then walked back inside. A minute later, the gate opened. Mr. Grayson will see you. Don't take long. Ethan's pulse quickened. He walked through the garden path, lined with roses that looked almost too perfect, like everything else about Grayson's life. When he entered the study, Richard Grayson was sitting behind a large desk, his cold blue eyes studying Ethan. So, Grayson said in a smooth voice. You must be the boy who keeps asking questions. Ethan stood tall. I'm not a boy. I'm Mark Turner's son. For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed Grayson's face. Ah, so that's it? He leaned back in his chair. Your father was a brave man. Too brave, maybe. Ethan clenched his fists. You killed him. Grayson chuckled softly. Careful with your words, son. I didn't kill anyone. Accidents happen. That's a lie, Ethan said. I have proof. Lily's diary, the letters, everything. Grayson's smile faded. You don't know what you're getting into. I know enough, Ethan replied. You had my father killed because he found out about your crimes. And you silenced Lily when she tried to expose you. Grayson stood up slowly, his expression turning dark. You have no idea what power means. I built this town. People owe me their lives. And you think some old diary will destroy me? I don't think, Ethan said quietly. I know. At that moment, another voice came from behind. Well, I think he's right. Grayson turned sharply. Detective Harper stood in the doorway, holding up his phone. We've been recording this whole conversation, he said calmly. Your confession will sound great in court. Two police officers stepped in behind him. Grayson's face twisted in anger. You planned this? Ethan nodded. Yes. You took everything from me, my father, my family's peace, even Lily's life. Tonight, you lose everything. Grayson reached into his drawer and pulled out a gun, pointing it at Ethan. If I go down, I'm not going alone. Ethan froze. The air felt still, heavy with fear. But before Grayson could pull the trigger, Detective Harper shouted, "Drop it!" A loud bang echoed, but not from Grayson's gun. One of the officers had fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Startled, Grayson dropped his weapon. The police rushed forward, grabbing him and forcing him to the ground. His face twisted in rage, but the fight was over. As they led him away in handcuffs, Ethan stood there, breathing hard, the tension slowly melting away. Harper put a hand on his shoulder. It's done, son. You did it? Ethan nodded silently, his eyes filled with both relief and sadness. It's over, finally. A few days later, the whole town of Willow Creek buzzed with news. Headlines read: Businessman Richard Grayson arrested, 20-year-old murder case solved. For many, it was just another story. But for Ethan, it was everything. He visited Willow Creek Bridge one last time. The river below shimmered softly in the afternoon light. The fog had cleared, and the air felt peaceful, as if the ghosts of the past had finally been set free. Ethan took out the silver locket and the old letter. He opened the locket one last time, looking at the faded photo of Lily and Mark, smiling together. He whispered, "It's over now. You both can rest." Then, gently, he placed the locket on the bridge railing, right next to the carved heart with the letters LA inside. For a moment, the wind blew softly across his face, warm, like a gentle touch. He could almost hear Lily's voice in the breeze. "Thank you, Ethan." He smiled faintly. As he walked away from the bridge, the setting sun painted the sky in gold and pink. The same bridge that once held so much pain now stood as a symbol of truth and love. Ethan looked back one last time and whispered, "You'll never be forgotten." That night, back at home, he sat at his desk, the letter, diary, and news articles all neatly placed before him. His mother walked in quietly, smiling softly. "You did it," she said, tears shining in her eyes. Ethan nodded. "He won't hurt anyone again." She hugged him tightly. "Your father would be proud of you." Ethan smiled, looking at the letter on the table. "Maybe Lily too." They sat in silence for a moment, the past finally at peace. Outside, the town of Willow Creek slept quietly, no more secrets, no more shadows. And for the first time in 20 years, the truth didn't wait anymore. It had finally been found. Crescent Moon, the end.